Lesson 1013, solving quadratic trig equations. A really good warm-up here is this do now. As you can see, we have xy minus x equals 0. In order to solve this, you want to basically factor out x. As you can see, when you factor out the x, you're left with x times parentheses y minus 1. We set each factor equal to 0. And y equals 1, x equals 0, and you have your solutions. Over here, you have to factor the trinomial, and this involves a little bit of guessing and checking. We know that the first term has to be 3x. The other first term has to be x, so we just go and place them in there. And we know that the two factors that give us -2 must be 2 and -1 or -2 and 1. So we'll go ahead and put this here, and we'll kind of guess and check to see if it works. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 1 is 3x. -2 times x is -2x. When you combine 3x and -2x, we get x. And -2 times 1 is -2. So we have done this correctly. And now we set each of these factors equal to 0. And we end up with x equals, add 2 to both sides, 2/3, and -1. So the solution set could be 2/3 and -1 like this. Okay, so this is a great warm-up for solving trig equations that are in quadratic form. So as you can see here, they give us an interval, very important right here, 0 to 360. The angle can be anywhere between 0 and 360, including 0 and 360. That satisfy the equation tan theta plus 2 tan theta sine theta equals 0. So as you can see, we can factor out tangent theta. Take out the tangent theta, we're left with 1 plus 2 sine theta equals 0. Just like we did with the warm-up, we want to set each factor equal to 0. So now we have tan theta equals 0, which you can take the inverse function of. On this side, we have to do a little more solving. -1 on both sides, 2 sine theta equals -1, and then we divide both sides by 2, and we end up with sine theta equals -1/2. What you can do, you can draw yourself a unit circle, and you can see that sine of theta equals -1/2 here and here. So that's 210 degrees and 330 degrees. That's how we have these solutions. Tangent of theta equals 0. Well, remember, tangent is sine divided by cosine, so 0 divided by 1 and 0 divided by -1 give us 0, 180, and 360 degrees. Don't forget about 360 because 0 and 360 are coterminal. So our final answer is all 5 of these angles: 0, 180, 210, 330, and 360. Here's another one. Let's factor out the cosine. We're left with tangent x plus 1 equals 0. We set each factor equal to 0, and we solve. So as you can see, cosine of x equals 0. That gives us 90 degrees and 270 degrees. Remember, the cosine of x is the cosine of the angle is the x value of each of these coordinates. Tangent of x equals -1. Well, that's going to take place here in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4, 45 degrees over and 45 degrees under here. Because when you divide, remember, tangent is sine divided by cosine. Because tangent is -1, you need to have have identical xy values, except one of them needs to be negative, one has to be positive. So our final answer is all 4 of these listed in least to greatest order. Number 3, we're going to solve this by taking the square root of both sides, because hopefully you recognize that this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. So we end up with sine of theta equals plus minus 1/2. And if you think about which y values equal 1/2, well, we have positive 1/2 up here in quadrant 1 and 2 at 30 degrees and 150 degrees. And then negative 1/2 is going to occur 30 degrees below the x-axis on both sides. And that's how we get this right here, which is your skinny bow tie. And they don't actually ask for the specific angles. They just want to know how many values of theta satisfy the equation. The answer is 4. Okay, here we have tangent squared theta minus 4 equals 0. What is the value of theta to the nearest degree? They tell us we're in quadrant 1. So as you can see, we solved this by using a difference of squares, or you could have just added 4 to both sides and taken the square root of both sides, sort of like what we did with this example here. We're going to set each of these equal to 0, and we have tangent of theta equals -2, tangent of theta equals +2. Now, we need the calculator for this. We're going to take the inverse tangent of both sides, and we end up with -63 degrees and +63 degrees. So there you have it. The answer is 63 degrees, option 3. Number 5, as you can see, we have this in quadratic form. This means we're going to have to unfoil. So this is actually very much like example, well, not example 1, but the do now. So you have to unfoil. We have tan theta minus 2 and tan theta minus 1 equals 0. We set them both equal to 0. We isolate tan theta. We end up with tan theta equals 2, tan theta equals 1. Use inverse tan. We find that one of the answers is 45 degrees. The other one is 63 degrees. Looks like this. Also recognize that we have the answers in quadrant 3 because tangent is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. So how many values are there? There are 4. Number 6, in the interval 0 to 360 degrees, how many values of theta satisfy the equation 3 sine squared theta plus sine theta minus 2 equals 0? We solve. We basically unfoil. We end up with 3 sine theta minus 2 equals 0. Sine theta plus 1 equals 0. And we end up with sine theta equals -1. We know that happens here at 270 degrees. And we know that sine of theta equals 2/3. Well, this is not one of the perfect angles on the unit circle, so we have to use inverse sine. We end up with 41.8 degrees. Don't forget about the reference angle. And we have 1, 2, 3 answers. Don't forget about radians. Which value of x does not satisfy the equation sine squared x plus sine x equals 0? So we factor out sine x. We set each factor equal to 0. And we end up with sine x equals 0 and sine x equals -1. Well, draw a unit circle. And as you can see, sine is -1 down here, 3 pi over 2. Sine is equal to 0 here at 0 and pi. Now remember, 0 is synonymous with 2 pi. They're coterminal. So we can eliminate this one, and this one, because remember, they're asking for which ones do not satisfy. So the answer is 1 pi over 2 radians. All right, here's another one in radians. We need to factor sine squared theta plus 4 sine theta equals 0. As you can see, sine theta equals 0. The other side, sine theta equals -4. We know that sine theta equals 0 in these locations, 0, pi, and 2 pi radians. And we need to use a calculator for this. It does not exist, so we look under our answer choices, and pi is our answer. Last example. Which value of theta satisfies the equation 2 cosine squared theta minus cosine theta equals 0? Factor it out, set them equal to 0, and solve. So here's your unit circle again. Cosine of theta equals 0. Here and here, 90 degrees and 270 degrees, also known as pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Cosine of theta equals 1/2 right over here, also known as, now this would be 60 degrees in degrees, and radians, it's pi over 3 radians. And there we have it. Good luck to you.